everyone, welcome to Jackie's Reading Corner. I am Jackie, and I just literally saw Olive from Book Olive do this tag, which is the Bookish boxes tag. I wrote it down in one of my many notebooks, and I got my first thought when she said the title was Bookish. When she said Bookish box, I was thinking about the ones that you would deliver in that get people subscribe to and you get it via the mail. But then it was like, does all of you even get those? So, but it turns out it's more like the boxes you would check off kind of thing. So I'm kind of doing this as a quick spur of the moment kind of thing and see how well I do. Of course, my video might get a little long, but hopefully it won't get too long. And I think I might actually tag some people this time. Okay, so question number 1, your go-to genre or favorite type of book? Fantasy. But I have this year, and starting in, I think last year too, I'm trying to expand my reading horizons and check out literary and horror and science fiction and all that. But mostly it's fantasy. Question number 2, retellings you are drawn to. So, unlike Olive, I actually do like fairy tale retellings. I like Beauty and the Beast. I love seeing I love seeing elements of the Beauty and the Beast story and other stories. Although I think sometimes you could argue that because I'm looking for them, I find them, and they're not necessarily the writer or the artist, the person who created it, whether it's a book or a movie, didn't intend for that, but I also kind of like Olive said, I kind of like when you have those classics and you get modern retellings of them. Although lately, some of the retellings that I've experienced, like actually really only one retelling, the Jane Eyre retelling that I read recently, ended up DNFing it because I didn't really like it. It was almost trying too hard to be exactly like the original story, but in a more modern setting. And the character, and it just couldn't match up to the original story. It felt wooden compared to the original text. No disrespect to the author, of course. I'm sure she's a great writer. It's just, it wasn't for me. And then question number 3. Lifestyles and careers of book characters. So, I'm a cliche part reader here, and I like stories about writers, and I also like stories about people that I'm academically inclined. Like, I just read the book If We Were Villains, and those characters were obsessed with Shakespeare. And then there was, last year I read The Secret History, and they were obsessed with Greek. They were obsessed with Greek. And I remember enjoying the Dan Brown books. And then Stephen King always puts writers in his books. There's always at least one character. Most of the time, it's the main character is a writer. Okay, so next is question number 4. Places or settings you are drawn to. Of course, I like the Roaring 20s. I like the Victorian era. I think that would be when Jane Austen's books are set. I like the American Revolution, which is the 1700s. And what else in the 20th century do I like? Oh, the early 1900s. I really love the early 1900s. So what was the other part of that question? Places or settings. I like, of course, a lot of stories that take place in Europe. I've just discovered, I kind of started getting interested in Russia, probably partly because of Olive. I like reading books set in Scotland, the UK, mostly a lot of Europe set books. Although I am kind of interested in Asian cultures now. I feel like I should like check out more books about Asia, particularly the Philippines, because I am part Filipino. So I almost feel like it's in my blood. So I should check it out and learn more about that country. But mostly, the UK. Now, question number 5: relationships you enjoy reading about. Siblings. I really love siblings, especially dysfunctional ones. That even though they're very dysfunctional and they don't always like each other, they still love each other. And of course, those kind of romances where they don't get the love to hate kind of romances, where they either it's extreme dislike or they just don't agree on stuff. And particularly, and back to the whole relationship thing, I like sisterly relationships, and I like relationships like the relationships between a parental figure and a child. And another thing that Olive and I have in common is I also like the mentor and mentee kind of relationships. And I want to read more. I feel like I don't read enough of those. Like I see a lot of examples I'm thinking of come from TV shows and movies, and I need to read more books about that. Oh, another for number 4, another setting. I like academic settings too, like boarding schools and colleges. Because which it's funny because my college experience wasn't that like that interesting to me. It's kind of boring actually. Okay, question number 6. Buzzwords in the title of the book. Now this is a hard one. I don't know. I guess magic, journey, destiny. Let me look at any. Trying to think. Look at all my books. I guess when there's mystery, like mysterious. If there's the term "what a magical creature is called in the title, like a dragon, a book that references to a dragon or dragons. I think I said magic. I don't know. I think that's really all of the buzzwords and titles. So, question number 7: things on book covers that draw you in. I don't know actually. I don't think I have an answer for this. I like when there's a very mysterious image that I won't know what it means until I read the book. Animals, I like animals on covers. And actually, I don't think I hate people as much as some people do. On their covers, because I know a lot of people don't like cover people on their covers, but it depends on the image. There's something else. Trying to think of what else. Mysterious places that look like really old, that are like either falling apart, or the forest. I like the image of a forest on covers. Like I said, animals, and this included mythical animals. Locations that have kind of a mysterious air to them, that are a little creepy or whimsical. As you can see, I am a fantasy, like I said in the first question, fantasy. Okay, now this next question Question number 8. Nonfiction buzzwords. Type of nonfiction you are drawn to. I like a lot of nonfiction that's about like people in Hollywood, like actors that I'm interested in. I like famous women that have accomplished things that might be potentially dangerous for them. Like I have Amelia Earhart's biography. And I also like stories about underestimated historical figures that were underestimated back during their time, and that now we look back on them and think, wow, look at all that they've done, that they've accomplished. I don't know. I mean, the thing is with me and there, in all honesty, it's more about like I'll read the back description, and then if that intrigues me, I haven't thought about this. Although I'm sure there are buzzwords that get my attention. And I'm not now, as far as nonfiction, I'm not a nonfiction reader anyway. I don't read a lot of nonfiction. I'm kind of just starting to get into it. I like, again, another thing Oliver and I have in common is I like history books. I like learning about certain topics in history. But again, like if you're new to if you don't read nonfiction on a regular basis, I feel like you have to find something that you are really intrigued and interested in, and that you're really passionate about. So it has to be. But like I said, I don't know if there's any buzzwords specifically, but there are certain subjects and topics that draw me in the nonfiction. Like I said, if it's about an actor or an author that I like, or a historical figure that I'm interested in, like Amelia Earhart or John Adams, which I still gotta read that book, John Adams by David McCullough. Okay, question number 9: medical or physical conditions of characters. I've kind of been interested in like scarring on people, like stories about people with scars on their faces or disformities, people that are, of course, autistic people, or people that at least have Asperger's. I like the idea of reading about someone who's blind. I always find that, especially since, like in classics, for instance, beauty is considered a very important thing. It's a very valued thing, especially amongst women. And especially when a lot of times women had to put in all they did was try to go to parties and maybe take walks and find a husband. And it was a lot of times you didn't get a lot of time to get to know a person, so looks in your brief conversations with that person is what was your deciding factor. So I think it would be interesting. I think the idea of reading about a book with someone that isn't traditionally beautiful, with a scar, or can't literally has the medical condition of blindness, and what that would be like for them in a society where beauty is a big deal. I also am kind of curious about, I also like to read more about stories, and as you can see, I say that in future tense because I feel like I have not read enough of that. Also, like people that are like physically, they can't walk, they're disabled, or they're, I think that would be interesting because I imagine that would be very challenging, and I would love to see people overcome that challenge. I would like to read stories about that. Like, I know I would have loved the idea in Secret Garden, for instance, if I read that book. That I remember Mary Lennox's cousin Colin, he is in a wheelchair. or at least they refer to him as cripple. And then there's also another example of blind is, I think, in A Little Princess. Now, I haven't read either one of these books. I would like to, but maybe maybe when I start going to the library again, I would try to look for them. But I remember that at least in the movie that came out in the 90s, the father becomes temporarily blind, I think. Actually, no, maybe he doesn't. I think, or his eyesight, he has trouble, his eyesight is, he kind of temporarily, I think, like, he temporarily loses his eyesight or something. Oh, and also, another condition is, well, actually, I guess this goes with the whole not being able to walk thing, when you have a male character who has to use, well, not just male, but female too, but, when they have to use a cane, and it's not because they're old, but it's because they can't, their legs are, messed up to where they have to rely on a cane for balance. Okay, I got an answer because I don't know when my mom's gonna call me down for tap dinner. So, question number 10. Time of year or time in history or future you're drawn to. Oh, I just realized I kind of answered that question already for question number 4. I guess I was thinking about this question for question number 4 too. Like I said, so I guess for question number 4, the settings and places would probably be more like, another one is, like, I just remember, another one I have is like New York. I like New York, and I also, and again, another thing that Olive and I have in common is I also like reading about small towns. Although now that I live in a small town, I kind of live in a small town, I mixed feelings. Because there's not a lot for someone my age to do, and, the only thing that I can really, I just walk to the bookstore, which is not good for me, because then I end up buying too many books. Okay, so to question number 10, time of year or time in history. Like I said, I really love the Roaring Twenties, the Revolutionary, like the Revolutionary period in America, the 1700s essentially. I really like the time right before the 20s too, like the early 1900s. And of course Jane Austen's time, which I think it was the Victorian period. I don't know, I would have to look that up. Like the 19th century. I like, let's see, I think, I don't like stuff, and I'm kind of starting to get into sci-fi stuff, so I don't know if I'm a big fan of the futuristic stories yet. I'm more about, as far as science fiction, I think I would more be, not necessarily the setting, but the journeys that the characters go through, especially if you do stories like where you're dealing with an AI character. But the setting wise, I'm not a big fan of. So far, I haven't been a big fan of futuristic settings. But I'm not, like I said, I do want to read more sci-fi, so that might change. Okay, so there's also 2 bonus questions. And, I did not get who created, I'll have to also find the person who created this tag in the first place. Okay, bonus question number 1 is any bookish boxes or any other bookish boxes or buzzwords not already mentioned? I don't think so. I think I said everything. Question number 2, what bookish boxes or buzzwords turn you away? I was thinking about this before I decided to film this video, and I feel like, first of all, I don't like covers where the guy's chest is exposed and you can see that he's a 6-pack and the woman is like practically draped all over him. Except for, although Gone with the Wind kind of has a cover like that. One of my copies of Gone with the Wind, because I have 2 copies of that book, a hardback one, a big hardback one, and then a small paperback. Let's see. I don't know. So basically, the covers of a lot of romance novels I don't like. If romance is the dominant word in the description, then no. I mean, yes, I like romance in the stories, I just don't like it to dominate the story. Sexy, I guess, would be when the main character, the main male lead, is just described as sexy in the description. Like, she's drawn to the sexy, mysterious cowboy or sexy, immortal angel. I think that's. I don't know. I don't know if there's any other buzzwords. A lot of the words that they use in the romance novels, like the ones that you can buy at the airport, um, or like at Walmart. I'll be right down. So I don't. I mean, I'm sure there are others, but as I just responded to someone calling me, I gotta go. So I'm going to tag people real quick for the first time. Hopefully they will notice. I'm only tagging a few people. Fictional Live, Sophia at Fictional Lives. Tati, the Tiny Booktuber. And Egyptian Reader, whose name I don't get, but I will get her name when I put her in the Dropbox below. So I really hope they see this and they do this tag, because I think this is a very interesting and different tag, very unique and new, and I hope they do it. So if you guys like this video, be sure to give a thumbs up and click subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, I hope you are enjoying your reading. Bye!